So, Madam Chair, just based on the timing of the project, I think it was not possible. We just went ahead and did the DRB before PRS. But again, Madam Chair, there's nothing in the code that actually says that PRS should review first before DRB. So we proceeded to do it, just trying to meet the time for this project, Madam Chair. Otherwise, Maria, if I'm saying something different, can you add it, please?
Nothing to add, just PRS agendas having so full, so we don't want to delay projects if we don't need to. Just asking members of the PRS.
Well, it seems to me that you know when DRB's meeting and you know when these cases are coming up, so we could do a better job of scheduling. But if, let's say that we had a huge issue with it, you would have to go back to DRB, correct?
That is correct.
Yeah, that's correct, Madam Chair.
And they understand that.
They do.
Okay, it just seems like you've never really been, I've brought this up several times and I've never really, you can't push it on us that the project will be delayed because of us if we don't know until like the meeting before that we're going to hear this case, right? So I just would ask for better communication on these, and I know you're very busy. So, okay, let's go ahead and introduce the presenter, please.
Okay, hi, I'm Michael Becker, principal of SWAM Associates. So I'll be presenting this today. Appreciate your time. I will say, Terry, this particular project, we're waiting for some brownfield funding that won't come until the fall. So yeah, we do have time on this one. We're not trying to pull a permit on this tomorrow. But I'll go through the two main issues are going to be the front stoop that we had to modify for accessibility. And then we can discuss the light fixtures and kind of how we're going to do that. We do still need to do a full exterior lighting design with our dark skies compliance, so it's likely we'll have to bring that back anyway. Just to let you kind of know where all this is going. But let me share my screen. I'll go through this quickly because, like I said, it's really the rest of the building. We're simply restoring it, so there is little to no modification to the rest of the building. Can you enable screen sharing, please?
Michael or Desiree?
Let's see. It says the settings are locked. Let's see, I might have to share it for you. I have the plans up. I'm assuming they're the same that were posted on the agenda.
I had a couple of supplemental documents.
Okay.
And unlocked it for you, Desiree.
Do you know if I can do that when the meeting is already started? It said I cannot. It might take a minute.
Yeah, I'm trying to make him co-host and I can't. Sorry.
Oh, maybe I can do that.
Yeah, you need to make him a co-host.
Okay, you should be a co-host.
Yep, got it. Thank you.
Thank you, Desiree. And Maria.
All right, I'll go through this first. Lost. All right, let's see if I can figure this out. So I'll go through this document first. So this is the overall site. Our building is right here in the center. It is the former Udall Foundation building. Children's Museum is to the southeast of here. There's no work proposed in this application for the actual museum itself, although there is future work. We'll be coming back for that. But it is this building, the square building, and then the adjacent parking lot. If I jump forward a bit here, here's the drawing of the site plan. As I mentioned, the building itself, we're doing, to the exterior of the building, we're simply restoring it. The previous review was the exterior of this building, I'm sorry, the minor review. The exterior of this building was sprayed with the Tuftex, similar to the Marist College. It has asbestos in it. So we wanted to get the approval to have that removed. We'll be restoring it to more of a stand finish, smooth finish that would have been historically accurate. The upper band, there is a bit of about a 6x6 tile pattern that's been scored into the stucco. So we're going to be restoring that, along with the crown molding that will all be restored. Everything got sprayed. So the crown molding got sprayed, everything got sprayed. So we got to take that texture off of everything, but we'll be cutting new crown molding because we can't get that Tuftex off because of the condition of the crown molding. But we'll be cutting new crown molding to match the existing. So we'll have a custom blade made to do that. What you're seeing here is the front of the building. Let me go back to the plan. So the building faces Scott Avenue. On the north side, we have the parking lot. The front door is in the center of the east facade. That's where the modification for the accessibility will be. And then the south facade is on Ochoa. The west facade will now be facing the new 7-story senior housing project that's going up next door. From the perspective, this is the front of the building. Hang on just a second. I've got some noise in my background. Sorry about that. So this is the front of the building. These are the light fixtures that we were discussing. If you walk by the building today, we have taken these down as we've been doing work to the building, but we have them. So depending on the outcome of these discussions, we'll determine what we do with those. The other thing to look at in this photograph is the stoop here. If I zoom in a bit, what you can see is at some point in the past, there was an actual step that was a stoop that was then cut out, and there was more of a kind of clay kitchen tile was put in to create the slope for the accessibility. This is not actually accessible, though. It's much, much, much too steep. So what we have done is to go in and basically modify this, and I'll show you those drawings in just a second. I do want to just give you a context of the rest of the building before we go on. From a color perspective, we will be painting the building to match the existing colors. And if we do decide on a color change, we will come back and ask for either a minor review or we'll come back to the commission. This is that east facade, and then this is the south facade. There is another fixture that's over the back door that did not come up in the DRB meeting, but I just want to, full disclosure, that is there, and that is another one that we have saved and is we will reinstall depending on the outcome. And then this is the west facade. Again, this facade will be completely concealed once that building next door is complete. And the rest of this is just short context photos. So again, to be completely transparent, because we did the TI, we could not get a certificate of occupancy without having the accessibility resolved. So this design that I'm showing you has actually been installed. I'll show you photographs. We understand we did that at risk. So I'm not, I expect you to review this as if it's a proposal. I do understand the situation that we're in. But what we're proposing to do to the front stoop, you can see this darker tile color is the existing tile. The light yellow that was all replaced anyway. So we did not remove any original material. But what we've proposed to do is to replace that with Saltillo tile to match the existing. We are extending that out 5 feet and then running a ramp to the south, basically to create the accessibility into the building. And then we have to extend the sidewalk a few feet to get the landing at the bottom of the ramp. So this is less than 6 inches as a rise. So it's basically one step. Because of that, like other curbs in downtown, no railings are required, and we're not proposing them right now. We've had this reviewed by the building official, and they've accepted our installation as we've proposed it. Let me stop sharing this and share something else. I do want to show you the photograph of the actual installation. So what you can see here is, actually, let me go back to this photograph. So what you're seeing here, there's the front door. This would have been original material, and then the new material starts here. We have a pedestal that has ADO operator to open the door and an intercom. That's the concrete ramp that comes up, and then this stoop, the one-step stoop that's basically a 5x5 square. Oops, that's not what I wanted to do. There it is. So it's looking at it from the other angle. Basically we've simply matched the existing condition as close as we could. We did want to use the subtile tile on the stoop to create that color contrast. So it's very clear that there's a step there. And then letting the ramp be more of a natural concrete, so it sort of disappears, kind of minimizing the impact on the front of the building as much as possible. It's another reason we did not want to provide a handrail. Again, trying to minimize the visual impact to the historic building as much as we could. It's just sort of a detail. And that's actually, sorry, let me go back to that. That's the joint between the new and the old tile. So this is old tile, and that's the new Saltillo tile. You'll see the grout joints are a little wider. That's because the newer tile is a little bit smaller than the historic tile. And rather than have a cut tile, we let the joints get a little bit wider so it would fill that gap between the two sides of the original tile that were still in place. Basically out to the second column, you can see the change in the concrete face from here to the right. That would all be the same older, larger tile in that direction. And as you can see in this photograph, we have removed the light fixtures. There is a very thin fixture that we've installed. This is code required to illuminate the front door. Again, we needed to do both the accessibility improvements and the lighting to get this certificate of occupancy so they can begin to use the building this summer. The reason we couldn't do the exterior work at the same time is because they are getting brownfield funding to do the abatement, and the brownfield program will not reimburse the museum. They will only pay for it. So we can't do the abatement until the brownfield funding is completely approved so that they can pay for the abatement, and that won't happen until October. So once we get later in the year, that's when we'll come back and actually finish the exterior of the building in terms of the light fixtures and the stucco abatement and the painting and everything else. I'm hopeful, just as a side note, that these columns, those have also been sprayed. I'm hopeful that when we actually strip those, that the concrete, those are obviously concrete precast columns from the 20s. I'm hopeful that those will be in good shape as concrete. I'd rather not paint those again because I don't, from what I can tell, they would not have been originally painted. So just a side note on that. And then the same thing with the sills. These sills are a terracotta tile. They were also sprayed and painted with the coating. So we're going to remove that coating and restore those back to the natural Saltillo tile for the window sills all the way around the building. And with that, I think that's the extent of what we have. So I think I'll just open it up for questions at this point.
Let's talk about the issue with the lights, the light fixtures.
Sure. So the light fixtures, actually none of them function. And they have basically the old wiring in them. They do appear to have been original to the building. Our challenge with those is that we cannot get a UL rating for them at this point. When we met with the DRB, they have a different focus than you. I understand that. They were open to us replacing those with a contemporary fixture that would be in context, but they do want the fixtures, the hanging style fixture back in the same locations. And we're certainly fine doing that. There's going to be some work we'll have to do on the inside of the building to get new wiring to those locations, but we're prepared to do that. Like I said, we do have the fixtures, and we can investigate what would be required to get those rewired in a safe fashion. That's what I can say about that.
Okay, so
I'm sorry, the last issue with the existing fixtures is they are not dark skies compliant. So that creates another issue with us. So we will either need to modify the glass. Let me go back I can bring back the original photograph that showed those fixtures in place. Just while we're talking about it, so you have a better context of what those actually are. There they are. So for instance, we would need, we would need to in some way, modify these to become full cutoff fixtures to be compliant with dark skies. So I just want to add that note as well. As we
Is that
discuss this.
pattern glass, Michael? Is it, or is it just,
It does have a pattern to it. It's slightly milky and opaque. It's not completely opaque, but it is a pattern glass and it has a bit of a texture to it.
well, I mean, is one possibility that we recommend that you continue to explore ways to get these made compliant? I
Yes,
just wanted
I
to bring
mean,
that up. That is one
yeah,
option.
yes. And my intent is I still need to complete the outdoor lighting analysis anyway. So we still need to submit that as part of all this. And if we come back, that I don't have a problem coming back and presenting the light fixtures.
Michael, we used, and I can't remember the name, but we used a pretty great like fabricator for the courthouse light
Okay.
fixtures who helped with I'll get with Liz and find the contact and send that to you. They
Great.
might be helpful. They do a lot
Yeah.
of rehabilitation for light
Okay.
fixtures and can get them comply. I don't know about the dark sky. You might have to put a little shielding in there or something, but
Right.
it'd be
Right.
worth seeing.
Yeah.
No, I'd
Well,
appreciate
thank
that.
you.
Thank you, Savannah.
That'd be great. So that's one thing we could do. And so, commissioners, do we have questions about the front stoop, the accessibility, and the thoughts on the light fixtures? Savannah, do you have any others? Any
No,
other thoughts?
I like the idea of rehabbing those fixtures if we can do it. If you can do it. No other comments. I think what you're doing is appropriate and respectful. So it's all good.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Joel? Do you have anything?
You're muted, Joel.
You're muted.
Joel?
Am I unmuted?
Yes.
Yeah, you are.
I'm sorry, I was having trouble getting unmuted. I don't know what the deal is. Anyway, I don't have any real questions other than do we know when this stuff was sprayed on the building that you're having to tear off everywhere?
Likely in the 70s. That seems to be when this product was used a great deal. It is delaminating in several areas, so we're not taking the stucco off. We're only taking, as much as we can, only taking off the tough tex itself. So it's only about 1/8 of an inch thick. So the abatement process will simply remove that, and then if there are areas where the stucco comes with it, then we'll go back and repair the stucco as necessary.
Yeah. They were selling this crap. I remember my folks put on what is now known as a mid-century modern historic home, but they put it on their house too. The worst product in the world.
Yes, it is.
So thank you for undertaking this work. Good presentation. Thank you.
Andrew, what do you have?
Nothing. The ramp looks good to me. And yeah, I hope you can do something with the light fixtures. They're pretty cool. I don't know if there's like a variance process in the outdoor lighting code or not, but with it being only 3 fixtures, and they're under somewhat of an overhang.
Yeah, it's actually 6 fixtures.
6. Okay.
Yeah, you can see there's 2 off to the side. Let me share one more time.
Yeah, and
I want to be.
Yeah, I saw one, and then you showed us the one in the back.
Yes, there's one around the
So-
side, but you can see there's 2
Yeah,
off to
there's
the
6.
side.
There's
Yeah,
1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and then one in the back, right?
correct. Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so, but anyway, if there are no other questions, Savannah, would you be willing to make a motion? Include something about, continue the analysis and explore rehabilitation of the 6 light fixtures?
Or I don't have the agenda up, so you're gonna have to give me a minute.
Do you want me to put the case in the chat for you? You're on mute.
Oh, sure. Well, that's okay. Let me just
Okay.
pull up the agenda. Okay, all right. Got it. All right. On the matter of SD 0125-00005 at 130 South Scott Avenue, I move to recommend approve the project as presented, including the condition of researching and looking into rehabilitating the existing historic light fixtures for use.
Okay, is there a second?
I'll second.
Thank you. Is there discussion? If not, I'll go ahead and call roll. Terry votes aye. Andrew?
Aye.
Savannah?
Aye.
Joel?
Aye.
Great, so it passes 4-0. I would
Great.
ask, Savannah, could you send us that motion? So that,
Sure, it was just I just, yeah, I'll try to remember what I said. It just came straight
okay,
out of my
or-
head.
Well, so we think we're recording this, so we would have.
Okay.
It
Yes,
might
let me just,
this will get the condition down, so, and I'll remember
Yeah.
too, but I don't like to get too far off from the actual wording.
yeah.
Yeah, so. Okay, well, thank you, Michael, and you know
Great.
the next steps, right, I'm sure?
I do. Yes. Thank you very much, everybody. I appreciate your
Thanks.
time.
Take care, bye-bye. Okay, case 3B is TPPRE 0425-00065 at 701 West Congress. Congress Street Apartments, new additions and new 4-story building. Courtesy review, downtown infill incentive district, contributing resource rehabilitation standards, and this is apparently a courtesy review. Will we be hearing this when it's a final review?
Yes, Madam Chair.
Okay, so do you want to give us some background?
Yeah, again, this is the RNA project. Maria, do you want me to go ahead or you want to take over?
No, go ahead, Michael. It's an IID.
Okay. This is an IID project. There used to be an old auto repair shop with sheds and a house on Congress and Bonito, which is being demolished to replace with new single 4-story multi-family housing building, which is adjacent to mostly 1-story single residences in the Menlo Park National District. The IID DRC, which is a Infill Incentive District Design Review Committee, reviewed this project on 5/4 and requested the applicant to explore 1, lowering the height of the Congress apartment and increasing the height of the Linda apartment. 2, to explore and see how the design of the Congress apartment will impact the designation of the Menlo Park as a National Historic District. At present in this meeting were members of the Menlo Park Neighborhood Association. They requested that the height of the Congress apartment should be lower from 4 to 3 stories, and where it is proposed to be 3, they are requesting that those 3 stories should be lowered to 2 stories in order to help the privacy of the adjacent single-family residences. Just as we said before, Madam Chair, this is a courtesy review. You will not need to take any action on this, but it will come back to you, I believe, when they are ready. If there is any question from the subcommittee, either myself or Maria can answer this for you.
Okay, and who will be presenting?
Sorry, it took me a second to unmute. I'm Tom McQuillan. I'm the architect for the project. And there's a person from the client on the meeting as well, Scott Harwood. And I do have a short presentation, but you'd have to make me
Desiree,
co-host.
can you make him a co-host, please?
Yes.
And while we're waiting for that, I did want to kind of clarify one thing. When we had our initial meeting with the neighborhood and a courtesy design review committee meeting, we brought 2 projects to it. Unfortunately, that's given the mistaken impression that the projects are actually connected. They are actually being developed by 2 separate groups of investors. So the suggestion to lower one and increase the other, they're not connected. So it isn't like you can take units from one side and put the units on the other side.
Okay, well, Mr. McQuillan, when you bring up your presentation, explain that to us. That's very helpful to know.
Yeah, I'd be
Since
happy
they're
to.
different projects.
Yeah.
Terry, this is Joel. This is Joel,
Yeah.
Terry. You know, I apologize. I didn't get the name of everybody. So this is Mr. McQuillan is the name?
Yes.
Yeah, and he's the architect for the project.
Okay, and is it Scott Harwood is the owner of one of
With
the projects?
client, I guess with the client, right? And who is the client?
Correct. I am with the developer. Oz Development is developing both of these projects for the ownership. So I'm on the development side listening in to Tom's presentation.
Okay, all right. And it is Scott Harwood. I get that right?
Correct. Yep, you're correct.
All right, thank you so much. Sometimes these names get by me. I apologize.
Yeah, and Joel, if you're online, you can look at the list of participants, which you are online, and you can see who's all on the meeting. It lists all the names.
Okay.
You just hit one of the buttons. It's either on the top of your screen or at the bottom where it says participants 12 or something.
Oh, thank you, Terry. That's very kind. Gosh, and there's a whole list of people. Oh my God.
Yeah, that's helpful.
So you
Okay,
should be able to share.
Okay.
Try it
let's
out.
do it.
Yeah, that should work.
And it's Tom. Yeah, okay.
All right. And I'll let me just
Yeah,
make
got it.
sure
Thank
I
you.
have this. Let's start. So let me just move this over. So can everyone see this?
I can.
Okay. So I think in October, we submitted an earlier version of this, and Maria asked Corky Poster to provide a courtesy review from the historic review standpoint. And I don't have, well, I have a copy of the courtesy review, but I thought that might be a good starting point. And I just, I clipped a few things out of his review. One, this shows the location of the site. It's right at the corner of Congress and Bonita, and the Gethsemane Park is here. The Riverwalk is just out of the picture there. And in his letter, he pointed out that here's the site. It's at the edge of the Menlo Park Historic District. And then he's identified the structures that are contributing structures. The house immediately in the parcel adjacent to it, they are actually they were the former owner of this site, and they sold it to the developer and have submitted a letter waiving the requirement for a historic review. And I have a question about just how that procedure works, but I can come back to it. And I guess I would ask, has anyone on the committee seen Corky's initial review of the project?
I have not.
Corky's what? I'm sorry, what?
Initial.
It the initial review, Corky was the design professional, right?
Yes, I mean, but he was reviewing it only for historic significance.
I got you.
Yeah.
Thank you.
It would be helpful, Desiree, Michael, and Maria, for those things to go up for us to review.
Yeah, and I think that they are. I uploaded them to the TRE or PRE-64 number. So I don't know if you have access to that, but it's the one that we're doing all the courtesy reviews under. So
Madam Chair, we just missed to include it as part of the review project, or the review
Okay,
document.
but in the future, please just maybe do a little checklist for when there are, because we usually talk about those reviews. Yeah, so go ahead.
Will do,
Okay.
Madam Chair.
Okay, I took a section out of Corky's review, and the initial part is basically establishing that this is within the historic district, and it is adjacent to contributing properties, and then the under the IID process. The committee would review this for compliance with the design requirements. And he reviewed an earlier kind of massing that we had for the project. And I'm just going to show this because I want to compare it to the current massing at the end. But it was initially 5 stories down to 4 stories down to 3 stories. And the 5 stories is at the corner of Congress and Bonita here, sort of stepping down towards the historic property, which is here, or the nearest historic property, which is there. And I think, I won't read everything, but I think that he was generally positive about that, but acknowledged that it's difficult to make a 5-story building complement and be compatible with a single-story, single-family resident. But he referred down to the items in section E that would be important to kind of recognize during the design of the process. He points out building setbacks and building step backs as kind of strategies that can be used to mitigate the impact of the bulk of the building on the adjacent historic property. So I think to summarize what he said, pushing everything towards the busier street, he thought was a good strategy. And then stepping it down towards the historic house was also a good strategy. He did note that you know, in an ideal world, it would be better if that came down to 2 stories. And then he talks about exceptions, and this is where the if the adjacent property owner submits a waiver letter, the director of PDSD can waive the compatibility requirements. He also notes that the review is not intended to necessarily limit the building height unless there's something else in the IID that limits it. So I'll go into it a little bit further, but just as a summary, the development group chose to reduce the height from 5 to 4 stories and still step it down as it goes towards the historic house to the west.
So I have a question before you go on. So
yeah.
If the property owner of the adjacent historic structure, is that the little one in the picture to the left?
That one.
Right. Are they the people that sold the developer the lot?
Yes.
Okay. To me, that's like a huge conflict of interest. So, and are they a contributing property in that National Register district, Desiree or Michael?
This one is.
The one that's the people that sold it?
Yes.
Okay, that's just fascinating to me. So basically, you're showing all the building, all the white and the gray to the west, That's all part of the same project, correct?
I'll show on a little bit later diagram, but the edge of the project is right here. These
sorry.
these two white structures are the two here that are going to be demolished. They're basically an auto repair business.
Okay, but in the picture to the right where you're showing how it's stepped, is
Yes.
that all part of the project, even that gray one? So it's
Yes.
it's 543, the way it's
Yes.
shown now, right? Okay.
Yeah,
All right.
that was last year. So
Okay,
that's
very
when we
good.
first had a review by Corky. And I guess one of my questions would just be when you get a chance to review Corky's letter, it seemed to me that he accurately laid out what the requirements were, and I just wanted to confirm that, if that's possible.
Well, I think that Michael or Desiree would have to confirm that. We're reviewing separately. We always like to hear what the design professionals have to say, but we're also professionals.
Yeah.
So we're reviewing differently, and our recommendation goes to the planning director, who then looks at everything and makes a decision, right? So we're just making recommendations. So does
Got
anyone
it.
else have questions on this, or can he move forward?
Yeah, that is confirmed,
Terry?
Madam Chair.
Yeah,
This review is an independent review from the design professional.
that's what I said. Yeah.
Well,
Okay.
so the review that I'm talking about from Corky was explicitly as a review of the compliance with historic requirements. He's at the beginning of the letter, he says, I'm not reviewing it as the design professional. I'm reviewing.
But he's not on this subcommittee and never has been. So that's why we do it separately. So, but we like to take it into account. So anyway, thank you. So we had a commissioner question. Joel?
Yeah, I apologize. I'm trying to get up to speed here. So right now, is the lot empty and this is a proposed building? Have I got that right?
The lot has, I believe it's two vacant buildings on it that were used as an auto repair business.
And
I
it will be
gotcha.
demolished. And this, on the right-hand picture, that's the proposed from a year ago before, well, Corky reviewed this, the one with the 543 configuration.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
And
We're gonna see what he's doing next.
yeah.
Oh, I see. And so we're gonna see what he's proposing here in the next few minutes or something.
So
Yes.
apparently he made changes based on Corky's review that I'm not sure how that was tied into this, but that is what it is.
Got it. Okay.
Yeah. I believe it was, first of all, it was a courtesy review, and it was done because at the time there was no historic reviewer at the city.
I see. That's fine.
Okay.
And then this is also a courtesy review, and when you finalize your plan, I assume we'll see this again.
Yeah, that was one of my questions.
Yes.
Very good.
Yeah.
Okay. Thank you.
Okay,
All right.
Savannah or Andrew, anything, or can he move on?
So just for the applicant, the courtesy review is for you to get feedback from this body. And so when you get ready to draw your full plans, you will include part of the feedback that you are getting from them today. This review today, as a courtesy review, is an informational review by you and the feedback from the subcommittee.
Yes, understood.
Thank you.
All right, next slide, please.
Okay, Savannah started to say something, but I
Oh,
didn't.
you were, Savannah? Okay, I
Oh,
couldn't
no,
hear
I
you.
said proceed when you asked the.
Oh, okay. All right. All right. All right. So again, these are just, this is an aerial photo of the site. This is essentially one building with several sheds around it. This is a house with an outbuilding here. So that's the site there. And then this is looking to the west, and that's the site. And this is the east edge, kind of along there in the aerial. And this is the south edge of the site here. So,
Okay, so is everything in whatever that shaded pink area, pink red, is going in that, or is the historic home staying?
the historic home is this one. You see my cursor?
Okay, so
Yeah.
everything's going in that
Yes.
pink area.
That's correct.
Okay, all right.
Okay. And then these are just photographs on, this is Congress looking east. That's the Sentinel Plaza Apartments. This is the site here, basically on the west side, north side of the street, sorry.
Okay.
And then this is at the intersection of Congress. So Congress runs this way, and then you're looking north on Bonita. The Yosemite Park is on the right, and the site is on the left.
Okay, just so, Terry, just so I get my boundaries, my bearings, in the bottom, left-hand picture, we're looking down Congress toward the
Toward the
east.
city.
Yeah, toward the east, toward
Yes.
downtown.
Yep.
Okay, I got it. Good deal. Okay, perfect.
Yeah.
Thank
And
you.
this is looking north there.
Got it. Thank you so much.
Yeah. So one of the things that, as you know, after we had our review with Corky, we started to look at examples of buildings in historic neighborhoods that are 2 and 3 stories tall. And you know, there are a number of them that I'm sure you're familiar with. The Sam Hughes School, and I've got kind of a photo of it, and then a street level photo. And so it's 3 stories at that portion. There are 1-story houses here. This is the downtown, the historic Y, which is on University Boulevard, and I believe it's West University neighborhood. And here's looking at the east side of it, basically across a small street, and it goes from 2 stories to 3 stories as the street goes down. And there are 1-story homes directly across the street from it. Safford School down in Armory Park. It's an older view of it, but it does show some of the homes that are immediately adjacent to it, and the same on the street view. I couldn't tell if it's just 2 stories with heights, high floor-to-floor heights. I think that's what it is, but it's over, I think 23, 24 feet tall up to that eve point there. And again, we're really at this point just looking for examples in historic neighborhoods in Tucson to kind of inform what we would be doing on this site after some of the suggestions we received. And another one, the All Saints Catholic School in Armory Park, which is about 2.5 stories because it's raised up. And then there's some adjacent rectory buildings that go down to 1 story through there. And so the transition kind of occurs nicely between 2, 2.5 down to 1. And then I never know how to pronounce this, but Roscugi, I think, in West University.
Roscrooge.
Roscrooge.
Yep.
Is there an R I missed?
Yeah, Roscrooge.
Okay.
Sorry.
But again, it's 3 stories across the street from homes. And then the last set of images are really just about the different cities' kind of response to the need for additional density and housing in neighborhoods that are traditionally 1 or 2 stories tall. And there are neighborhoods in New York, in Oak Park, in Mendocino Hills in California, where, approaches have been taken where there are apartments that are, 2 stories in the backyard. These are 3 stories. In Jackson Heights and in Queens in New York, they kind of invented the 4-story walk-up just as a way to get additional density to make housing more affordable in neighborhoods that previously have been, single-family home neighborhoods.
Right, but possibly some of these were drawn from National Register districts or historic preservation zones, and they're basically public buildings like schools or
Yeah, the Y is more of a community center.
right,
Yeah.
but are there in that National Register district in Menlo Park, are there any examples? I think that's what, for me, compatibility with the surrounding area as opposed to compatibility with examples used elsewhere, and we don't know if the example in Oak Park or in New York or in California has any historic district near it or is in a historic district. So have you done, commissioners, do you have any comments on that? Am I off base there? Anyone?
Yeah, I think Madam Chair is right. The way the Tucson code, the RNAID is written, when they do compatibility in this subcommittee, they are looking at the immediate neighborhood. So, Tom, what you are bringing from New York and all those things, they may exist there, but I think you are better off bringing something around Menlo Park. It will be more helpful here.
Okay, I mean, I take your point, and
It was a good
I did.
Thank you.
Whoops, sorry, I didn't mean to talk over you.
No, that's okay.
Yeah,
and yeah.
Go ahead. You go ahead.
Yeah. So no, that's good. But have you done a new revised drawing of what you're thinking of?
Yes, I'll get to that.
Okay.
That's coming. And I just wanted to explain one thing, which is one of the competing concerns in this project is that the councilwoman Lane Santa Cruz has expressed the desire to get more housing that people can afford, so that people who currently live in Menlo Park can continue to live in that area. And that's kind of what that's a separate goal for this project. But I brought these examples from other areas just to, illustrate that other cities have dealt with the scale issue of bringing in more density that requires more floors adjacent to smaller scale structures. And, it's not a specifically explicitly historic issue. Right, but there are a number of different kind of competing interests that are sort of combining on this project. So that's all.
Oh, understood. We understand the need for some sort of density there to build on that parcel. So
yeah,
okay,
and
go ahead.
The other, I guess, the other question I would have on this parcel is that, it's at the edge of the historic district, and it's next to a street that, if you recall from the meeting, Michael, a number of the residents spent the time that they had allotted to speak talking about how busy that street was. And I guess this is just a question. If you're going to have additional density in the area, wouldn't it be better to have it near Congress? Kind of, back to Corky's point of keeping it closer to the edge of Congress. And that's just a question I would ask.
Yeah, Madam Chair, if I may make a suggestion, that we do the presentation and show the proposed plans and then come back to
Yeah, let's do
discussion.
that.
Okay.
Thank you.
All right. So I did include the landscape plans because some of the comments from Corky were about landscape and the actual palette for the projects. So why don't I just jump to this slide. So this is what was originally proposed about 6 months ago, where it was 5 to 4 to 3. What's currently being proposed is 4 down to 3 on this side. And then some of the other suggestions that Corky made were to kind of take our cues from the historic house and try to bring in some of the materials and the detailing, into this project. So the historic house is a craftsman bungalow. This is basically a photograph of it from the street there. It has hipped roofs. Basically, it's stucco with a little bit of a kind of water table base to it. You can't see it behind here, but it's a little bit like that. It has more vertically proportioned windows. It has overhanging roofs with exposed framing, kind of like you see at the train station here. As we looked into this, we thought, well, you obviously can't take a bungalow and make a 5-story bungalow. So we started looking at other buildings that were built roughly around the time that this house was built. And so we looked at buildings downtown with like the Steinfeld building with canopies that used to cover the street to provide shade for the walkways. We looked at the train station, the MacArthur building with their overhanging roofs and some of the detailing, which you can't really see in this photo, but of what that's like, and the kind of panelizing of the windows, and then the base, middle, and top kind of division of both these two buildings. Then generally speaking, the kind of thin, plainer, sand finished stucco with a different kind of base to it for the Museum of Art example. And let me see. So some of the points at which we picked up some of those details, again, having a base, a middle, and a top to the building, having an overhanging roof with exposed framing like this, having a hipped roof at this side also with exposed framing. And then in terms of texture, having a sand finish stucco with a smooth finish at the base, kind of matching the gray and the lighter stucco in here. And then canopies suspended from the face of the building like that. So, and I can just go back. This is the side of the building that faces to the west. This one faces to the south, and this one faces to the east. And part of our discussions, we initially went, and I'll go back to the site plan. Initially, the building stopped here, and there were 4 parking spaces in here. When we met with Ward 1 offices, Lane Santa Cruz asked us, why did we need those 4 spaces? Couldn't we provide more housing further back this way? So that's in part how the building grew a little bit more back in this direction. So I know I jumped around a lot. I'm happy to go back to any of the slides.
May I just
go ahead.
ask a question or so at the DRB meeting, you know, the second proposed development across the street, which is outside of the HBZ, and it was also presented. And while, you know, the purview of this commission is just within the HPZ, there were some questions that came up about moving, you know, and this is what Michael was alluding to, but I wanted to provide a little bit more context. The suggestion was made to move some of the height or some of the units from this apartment development to the one across the street, which is only proposed at 3 stories now. So I was just wondering if you had any response to that. You know, is that a possibility?
Yeah,
You know, and
so the short answer is no, because these are two completely separate groups that are basically paying for the development on each of the 2 sites. I had presented them together because I thought it was in the interests of the neighborhood to kind of see how both of them would work to reinforce the street edge and make it a sort of safer place to be. But in retrospect, that opened up the question of could you move units from one to the other? And you really can't. They've both been financed. If you change the number of units on this project, the project goes away.
okay, that's helpful to know. Thank you.
Yeah.
Okay, do we have other feedback?
Just to follow up on that, where is this other project that's being talked about? It's the other side of Bonita?
No, it's here. Oop. So this is the project we're talking about.
Oh, okay.
This is the other one on this side. And it's 3 stories for a specific reason that had to do with the kind of stepping down of the massing from Sentinel, which goes from 6 to 5 to 4. This goes to 3, because in general, that was initially the idea, was to kind of bring the scale down as you went further away from downtown. So
Anyway,
that's
what is on the agenda today, Madam Chair, is actually the Congress Street apartment.
Yeah,
Okay, that's clear. I was just curious.
yeah, and Ms. Majeski, members of the PRS, yeah, the Linda apartments, they're not gonna be reviewed by the PRS because they're not adjacent to any designated historic site or structure or eligible to be designated as historic.
Understood. So we're just focusing on the Congress apartments.
yes. And I apologize because, you know, by presenting them together, it made it appear like it was one development, and that's really my own ignorance because, you know, it truly is 2 completely separate groups, and the financing is based, you know, on the configuration of the buildings, and you can't take a story off of one and put it on the other one.
So PRS members, do you have feedback that will help him in his continuing development of the plan?
This is Joel, Terry, if you will.
Go ahead.
Yeah, it is a little confusing about this presenting the 2 separate plans because clearly they're related to one another. So I'll try to keep my comments separate, but they're obviously related. And I do like the plan. I think the proposed building is very much in keeping with the neighborhood, and the step down I think is a really good solution to to that issue, even though I'm not commenting on one of them because they're separate issues. allegedly. So I do like the plans. I do like the setup. And it stepping down from 6.5 down to 3 is a good solution to a much needed housing issue down there. And gosh, this is an exciting project to me. I would utterly support it. So I think the lines are right, the color's right, the roofs are correct in my mind, and I think it's a good job. And you know, I mean, I think you know, Corky Poster's a person who's been before this committee a lot, and he's always had great proposals for you know, low income housing, especially as it relates to down in Miracle Mile and those projects down there. So I really like this plan and support it. So I guess that's the end of my comments before I start repeating myself. Thank you.
Thank you, Joel. Savannah or Andrew?
Sure, I'll go. Yeah, I mean, I think the general massing is as good as it can be for this quantity of units, right? And the base, I also appreciate that being a distinctive element. Few issues I see. I mean, the east elevation, it's a pretty prominent, like right on the corner
Yeah.
mass with a pretty blank facade, which I don't know. It looks like there's a jog in plan, but it only happens at the first level. Is that right?
Yeah, that's correct. There's a stair at this side here.
I mean, it's an what is the building construction type? You can put windows and stairs.
It's 5A.
Okay.
So,
I mean, it depends, I guess, on the fire separation from the property line.
no, you're correct, actually. It's not, and it's not that close to the here. So one of the constraints is there are high tension lines on this side. So we had to be 20 feet back from them. So we're not close to the property line in terms of fire protection, but I think you're right. I think that elevation could use help.
Yeah, and then my only other thing that was just nagging at me a little was the roof at the west elevation. The high roof cuts at there's a sloped roof. I'm assuming it's a tile roof that cuts
tile.
the higher parapet, and it doesn't, the logic doesn't follow what happens below. It cuts like in the middle of a bay of windows. And if that was like inspired by like the MacArthur or something like that, usually that logic of like kind of the corner tower element follows through as like a mass turn. So I would just look at that, where that, if you want to have the kind of the pitched roof plus the parapet, finding some logic with how it relates to the windows below and kind of the general massing. Do you see what I mean?
I think I do, but are you talking about?
Oh, I meant the south elevation. I apologize. The south elevation.
This
yeah.
one. This side. Yeah. Okay.
The pitched roof ends like above on both sides, like right, like halfway above the window below, above the windows below. I wish I could draw on the screen.
I know.
Do you know what I mean? Like if you go back to the MacArthur example.
Okay. Let me go down.
Yeah, it's actually right there. Do you see? I mean, I'm assuming that was kind of the inspiration for it, but that the tower, like the windows are tucked within the projecting roof.
Yeah.
On that facade.
Oh, I see what I got it. Yeah. Yeah. Actually, that was a red line that's not been picked up.
Okay. All right. Good. Glad to hear it. Yeah, I would just propose just resolving those corner elements, or kind of like some way of resolving kind of the whole mass at those two ends. But yeah, I mean, that's just nitpicky stuff. I think that was all that that popped out to me. I think generally it's a good response, and glad to see more affordable housing. Certainly, you said this was for seniors.
No, it's not for seniors, and
Oh.
it's actually, I guess if you had to pick a name for it, it's kind of workforce housing.
Yeah. Okay.
So it is market housing, but it's going to be significantly more affordable than what's being built south of Congress.
All right.
Um,
So but there's no playground or anything. So it's really not families. Are they just one bedrooms?
No, they're a mixture, but there are a lot of studios, one bedrooms, and they're called parallel one bedrooms. The project across the road has some two bedrooms, but it's primarily aimed at single people or couples just starting out. And the development group has done, I believe, 20 of these in mostly in Utah, but also they have projects now in Mesa and Phoenix. And they turn out to be very kind of successful, popular, I guess, because there are a lot of people on their first job who can't afford, the cost of apartments, like 3 of my kids. So that's kind of, the target market.
Cool. Well, thanks for sharing. I appreciate that.
No, I appreciate the input from everyone. I don't want to take too much time, but I wanted to see if Andrew had comments.
Yeah, just a few. All Savannah's comments were great. The only thing I could really add to that would be maybe trying to find some opportunity for some more relief in these elevations, like maybe at the south entrance, if that could pop out or in, or somehow kind of delineate itself so there's a clear like front to the building.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think that's a great point.
I'm sure balconies are out of the question, but it'd be nice if there were some.
So balconies were a hot issue for the neighborhood.
Mm-hmm.
They generally were against balconies and primarily overlooking adjacent residential areas and stuff. So we don't have them here. We do have them on the other side of the road.
Yeah.
The privacy issues.
I get that. I know that's always.
Yeah.
I guess your only opportunity for them really would be like on the Congress side, since you face another building. But I appreciate the like when I saw your first like 3D massing image on the first page, I was like, oh wow, they should do a hip roof or something on the west side. And so I was very glad to see that element brought in. But it looks good. And it's an exciting project. So thank you.
It's painful to sometimes bring things you did a while ago.
I know.
But we think it's gotten better.
Yeah, it's helpful to us that you show that sort of evolution of your thinking. And well, I encourage you to take these suggestions, and sometimes on projects of this scale, we even do a second courtesy review before you come back with the final if you have anything you quickly want to review or something like that. But I would suggest that you work with Michael and Desiree on, how you're moving forward on your plans. And, we look forward to seeing the project when you've got, as a full review.
Yeah. Well, I appreciate all the comments, and I appreciate the fact that it's sort of a continuation of what Corky had given us, which was actually really helpful initially.
And Ms. Majeski, members of the PRS, just to let you know, the design professional will be Rick Gonzalez, designated to this project. When we realized we were losing our former historic preservation officer, the Rick Gonzalez, the design professional, was out of the country. That's when we reached out to Corky. So
basically, Corky did the design professional review.
Rick Gonzalez did. the
Mhm.
preliminary, and then Corky
And then
did the
Corky.
preliminary for historic, because at that point we had lost our HPO. So
Okay.
moving forward, it will be just Rick Gonzalez.
Okay, is he going to be doing more review of this based on,
Once it's submitted formally, yes.
okay. But again, if the applicant wished to do another courtesy review with us as he continues to develop, that could be done. I mean, we've done that. There was one project we did at least 2 courtesy reviews on. So that's just an
Yeah.
option for the presenter. I don't think it's certainly not mandatory.
No, it's not mandatory, but yes, of course, if the applicant requests another courtesy review, we will schedule it.
Well, I appreciate everyone's time and comments. I actually enjoyed watching the first one with Michael. So I appreciate what you folks do.
Thank you very much. Thank you. Good luck, and we'll see you again.
All right. Thank you.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
I do have one question, not for you, Tom, but for maybe Desiree. The house,
Go ahead.
the house that's being torn down as part of this, it's a non-contributor on the registration form. And I'm kind of wondering why, because it looks like it's in the period of significance. But I don't know. It might be worth looking into if that house is correctly classified. I don't know.
Okay, yeah, I would have to do some research and look
Yeah.
into that,
Mhm.
but I
That's
can follow
fine.
up. Mhm.
But
It's-
Andrew,
you.
this isn't the one that is remaining, right? It's a different one.
Right. This is the one with like the little like porch on the front of it. Like the arched porch on the front of it. It looks like at least from the plans, it looks like that would be torn down if I'm not.
Along with the car repair place
Yeah. Yeah.
complex.
Yeah.
Yeah, well, it's great to ask Desiree to look into that.
Yeah, I'll do that.
Yeah, I think it
Thanks.
was looked into almost about a year ago when the developer first looked at the site. So, but it's always worth checking.
Yeah. I
Okay,
mean,
thank you.
the inventory form has it as non-contributing.
Yeah.
Just not sure why, but
Yeah.
it's okay. It's not that pretty of a house, so I won't cry about it. But
Just a little.
Yeah.
So, Karina, can you tell us what your last name is, please?
Sorry?
No, there's some participant here by the name of Karina.
A
What's your
person named Karina, is she listed under participants?
yes,
No,
Madam
just
Chair.
Karina.
Yes, I
Karina,
work with Tom, and my last name is Eichhorst. It's spelled Eichhorst.
did you get that, Michael?
No.
I can email it to you, Michael.
Could you do
Okay,
that
thank
for
you.
minutes? It's helpful.
Yeah.
There's also
yeah.
the chat, if you wanted to
Oh,
put it in
yes,
there.
I'll put it in the chat.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah,
It's
she's,
just for our record keeping and making sure we represent everybody correctly.
Yes,
Yeah.
thank you.
yeah.
Okay,
Yeah.
well, thanks again.
Thank you
And,
very much.
Sure, take care. All right, we
Bye.
better move on to the next case then, because we're moving along in time here.
I do
Item
have to leave
3C,
at 3, Terry.
you do?
Sorry,
Okay,
3
well,
o'clock.
okay, so, well, there's probably no way that you'll be there for part of the Fort Lowell then. We'll see. See how far we get. And we still have a quorum if you left. So, anyway, case 3C is TD DEV 1223-00473/TCCOM 0724-01365 at 401 East 22nd Street. This is to provide improvements to Santa Rita Park, new splash pad, playground, plaza area, perimeter, multi-use path, comfort station, multi-purpose fields, and public art. This is also a courtesy review that we take no action on. It's a capital improvement project. We did, Historic Landscape Subcommittee had a special meeting or an earlier meeting, just, I think, a week after their previous one, so that they could give us some feedback. And you've all received that as part of the meeting materials. So, staff, do you want to give us background on this, please?
Sure.
Go ahead, Ms. Desiree.
Thank you. Yes, Madam Chair. This was so this park project is fairly far along in the process, as you'll as Ms. Chan will share. But we did get a letter, an email from the Tucson Historic Preservation Foundation a couple weeks ago, expressing concern about the pending demolition of the pool house and pool on the site. I looked at the inventory form and realized that there hadn't been an actual evaluation of that property. So there was an inventory form, it was documented, but it hadn't actually been evaluated. So we don't know yet if it would be eligible or not. There is no, HPC overlay for this. It's not a national register. But the reason that we were, interested to see is it potentially significant is because of our local administrative directive, which indicates for city projects, we do want to take into consideration, both underground as well as, above ground, potentially significant cultural resources. So that's why we are getting a full evaluation completed. It's not yet ready. But in the meantime, it was also requested, to bring the overall project to Historic Landscapes and to PRS. So I just wanted to share that background.
Just say a little bit more and then pass things over to the project manager. Good afternoon, not Historic Landscapes, that was last week. The Plans Review Subcommittee, my name is Jasmine Chan. I'm with the City of Tucson Parks and Recreation. I'm the administrator over our capital planning and development team. So this is located at Santa Rita Park. We're doing a phase 1 implementation of a master plan that was adopted by mayor and council a couple of years ago, looking at major goals of bringing in amenities and recreational activities that people from the neighborhood surrounding both north of 22nd and south of 22nd would like to see in their park facility. So I'm going to pass things over to Matt. He has a presentation that he will share, kind of history of how we got to the master plan, and then how we are where we're at now, include some pictures of pool, bathhouse, and the picnic tables that have also been brought to our attention.
I'm not disabled yet. Or enabled.
Desiree, can you give Matt share ability?
I just did.
Okay.
Yeah, so you should be able to share
Thank
now.
you.
Thank you.
Can everybody see the screen?
Yes.
Perfect. So this is Santa Rita Park. Just wanted to talk about the implementation from the master plan all the way through construction, and then showing the condition of the pool house as well, along with pictures, like Desiree said, that were a part of the form that was filled out, just so you can see that it was documented that way. So, what is it? All right. So the master plan for Santa Rita Park. So when we started the master plan process, we did 3 virtual meetings in January of 2021, June of 2021, and April of 22. And then we did 3 in-person meetings at Santa Rita Park, 2 in November of 21 and 1 in April of 22. We did 2 online surveys to get the community input for the master plan concept. We had 239 participants in that survey in June of 21. We had 375 participants in that survey in November of 21. And then Mayor and Council adopted the master plan for Santa Rita Park August 9th of 2022. So after that, this is the master plan concept plan that came available or a part of those different surveys. So it was to have the open turf area and free play in the bottom right-hand corner, closing down 3rd Avenue and putting where the existing connection is, have that connection off of 3rd Ave become a parking lot. And then on the left side, the initial master plan concept was to have a dog park in the corner of 22nd Street. Sorry, why did it go? And then making a big plaza area, since we are closing 3rd Ave, to have a plaza area where the community could come and gather. So they had the playground along with the splash pad. And then also the skate park is staying, and then moving the restroom over to the plaza area as well. And then putting in a walking path around the perimeter of the park as well. So then to get into the park design process for Santa Rita Park, the preparation of construction documents began early 2023. Conducted playground survey in August of 23. We had 154 individuals participate in that survey to select what they wanted to see in the general playground layout for this project. And Mayor and Council approved closing 3rd Ave to be a part of this project August 8th of 2023. We finished the design process in December of 24. We went out to bid in January of 25. Bid opening was in March of 25. The contract was awarded in April of 25. So with the scope of this project, some of the new amenities are, like I said, the new restroom, a new playground, splash pad, plaza area where we're planting throughout the whole park. We're planting 300 trees and 300 shrubs throughout this project. And then we're putting a walking path with DG and asphalt. So the asphalt path is 10 feet wide, and then the DG path is 4 feet wide. And we're going to try and preserve as many of the trees along 22nd Street as we can with the walking path, because the walking path does go around the whole perimeter of the park. And then, like I said, we have a new parking lot going in. And then with that plaza area in this general area, this playground is here, and then we have the splash pad right here, and then having turf around it as well, so individuals can have like a picnic while they're at the playground or at the splash pad. And then adding, this project also has new irrigation going into it as well. So hopefully improving the project, that the conditions of this as well. And then we have the baseball field that's currently by the pool house that needs to get moved over. So we've moving that over. And then this is in the area of the pool and pool house currently. So we did a cultural assessment. We contracted with Desert Archaeology to do the cultural assessment. We got the report, was received in October 24th of 2024. There was no cultural resource were located at Santa Rita Park, but in the report they did say when digging and grading, if cultural resources are located during this phase of work, obviously we need to stop and get it monitored and do that. So it was more of a surface area. They didn't dig down or anything like that as their cultural assessment. So then we had Westland Engineering do the archaeological assessment for the amenities to be demolished, a part of the Santa Rita Park project. Documentation was completed in December 7th of 2022. As part of that documentation, they partially completed the Arizona State Historic Property Inventory form for the pool house and pool. We asked Westland, they are currently performing the rest of the evaluation of eligibility assessment. I am hoping that I have that tomorrow. They said that they would have it by the end of the week. The pool was opened in 1942. Pool underwent renovations in 1980, where they added a kiddie pool. The dressing rooms were converted into storage rooms and covered with a sheet-style roof. Additionally, after the 1980 renovations, no other renovations have taken place at the pool house and pool. Photo documentation was a part of the report by Westland, and I'll get into some of those
Terry,
pictures here in a little
can
bit.
I ask a question? What is a sheet style roof?
I think shed style probably, Joel.
Oh, okay. All right. Gotcha. Thank you.
And that could have been a typo. And then as part of the public art project with Santa Rita Park improvements, the artist is combining oral histories of community members to be included. Currently, the location for the mural and benches is around the playground and splash pad area. So residents that are using the park will be able to use a QR code for oral histories. So that's a way for individuals, if they used the pool and pool house, they could talk about their experiences. So it would be archived, and people would be able to have that assessment and a way to pass on that history of the pool, their pool experience. So some of the pictures that were a part of the assessment, the one on the left is where, when you're looking from 22nd Street from 22nd Street, looking back towards the pool house. That's the front of the pool house. So you would walk on the left or right side where the gates are and get into the main area. On the right-hand side, this is Kinney Corner. So it's over by the maintenance gate, right by the train track crossing, looking back to the southwest of the park. And then on the right-hand side right here, you can see that the pool shell, this is the kiddie pool side. And then on the other side is the deep end, or the diving well is on the other side. And then another closer picture of the pool house, where it has the shingle style, like the original roof. And then on the left, like right here, you can see that it's been the conversion to put the shed style roof up there. And then on the right hand side, this is the walking into the area to get up, where you would have to use the ramp to get up to the pool. So this is where the bathhouse would be. And then some of the pictures, this is just inside of one of the storage rooms, where it just shows some materials that were still left behind. And then right here is the bathhouse, where where you can raise the gate and go outside to it as well. So I just wanted to show you the condition pictures that were a part of the report that were submitted with Westland's report. And then that's all I have.
Okay, who would like to start with questions?
I can start.
Go ahead.
I think I would just really, really, really encourage you to not tear down the pool house, forget what the name of that, the central building of that pool house with the tile roof. I mean, just looking at the plan, I guess I don't understand the reason to tear it down completely. There doesn't seem to be any programmed like activity in that area that wouldn't be possible if that pool house were to stay.
Yeah, so currently the bathhouse is right here.
Mhm.
And so we're trying to put in multi-purpose fields in that area. So we're trying to put 3 multi-purpose fields. So the way that it sits now, but we could look at possibly, because I know like the pool shell intrudes more, like it's more this way towards it. So it's something that we could look at, but it's trying to figure out exactly, because having a building when you're trying to play soccer or ultimate frisbee, that kind of stuff. So but that's the reason why we were trying to demo it, is because currently the pool it hasn't been open from my understanding since 2006.
Yeah.
So we're just trying to make it an amenity that more individuals can use, and we think that the multi-purpose fields could do that. So
Yeah, I mean, I would encourage you to look at it. I think with the multi-purpose fields, there's some flexibility in how those are laid out, and the size of them, because they're not like a regulation size to any specific sport, probably. And I think that, to tear down the wings of the building with the shed roofs, that's all good. Obviously, tearing out the pool, but that little building is so little. I can't imagine that we can't find a creative way to work around it. And then looking at I saw some text in there about a concept for like a mural and oral histories portion of the park. And I think like this building, since it's already painted, would be an excellent candidate for that. Like the building could be the mural. And I think like those oral histories of the park are so much better told when a piece of that is still here. You know what I mean?
Okay.
So I would look
so
at like an adaptive reuse of that little building in that sense, if you could.
Yeah. So currently we have the oral history. So like the mural is going to be, there's a sitting wall in this area or this area. I can't remember exactly which side it's on, but it's because we wanted to have it be where we feel that more individuals would be. But it could be, if the pool house does stay, it could be that the mural gets shifted over. So it isn't just a small building out in the middle of the field.
Yeah.
So that's something that we could look at.
Okay. Yeah, I'd appreciate that. I think the other question that was raised by Historic Landscapes was the benches. Can you address that?
So the benches are currently, they're in this location. They're out in the outfield of the baseball field currently. I've reached out to our staff. So I assessed all of the picnic tables that are going out for demo. 3 of them are a stone bench. The rest, the other 7 or the other 4 to 5 are our old style, where it's not historic, I guess, would be the proper way to say that, because the benches that they're talking about, they have a stone base, and then they have it's almost like a countertop bench to it, so it overhangs a little bit, and then the same thing for the table where it has that base. So I'm trying to salvage. I've talked to the demo crew to see if they can salvage them, because our staff said that they wouldn't be salvageable. But with them doing demo, they might have better equipment that we could look at for salvaging them. And then I know that the Historic Landscape also said if they couldn't be salvaged, could we recreate them? And that's something that we're looking at as well, that if we can't salvage them, how do we recreate them? And I've taken pictures of them so we can have that as well.
Okay. I know they're painted currently, so.
Well, all of them out there are painted.
Yeah.
So all the tables out there are painted. The ones that are, in my opinion, the ones that the community was talking about are the 3. There's 2 of them that are blue and 1 of them that's green. And we could paint them again. That's not a issue to repaint them.
Yeah. Well, just to be clear, in the legal action report from the Historic Landscapes meeting, they said that the historic picnic tables and benches are character defining features and should be inventoried. They should be preserved on site when possible or replicated as needed elsewhere if preservation/relocation is not possible. So I would echo Andrew's comment that a use for them would be great. And I also wanted to point out that we should really wait, and do you agree, Desiree, until the HPIF is completed?
Yeah, the inventory form was just looking at the pool house, so it wouldn't include the benches.
Oh, no, but I mean, for the other item, for the what to do with the pool house. I mean, that's kind of a separate issue
Yeah.
from the picnic tables and benches, but they are character defining. A lot of these things were not inventoried properly, if there is even a nomination, right? And so, I know that you're working toward that with an inventory of parks and which ones are historic, and think about it. That's really important. But I also wanted to mention here, we had a recent case in a park where we discussed what the survey results indicate. And we really suggested that these surveys need to be updated. Do you understand, residents who are commenting on this, that there are historic, things in this park, or that the park itself is historic or listed or something like that? Because you don't, those are things we have to balance, not just the residents of the neighborhoods, desires. This is a historic place. It's one thing if it's not at all, you can do whatever you want, right? But that needs to be, and I would really hope that it wasn't all that long ago that we brought this up, that all this needs to be taken into consideration. And perhaps when the master plan was done, there was not a consideration of the historic nature of the park, or not, right? And so are you also going to, Matt, well, it says they commended you for preserving historic linear features, lines of trees and so on, and the planting of additional rows of trees to define the historic pattern of roads and site divisions, and the retention of turf as a historic feature. So that's positive. So, but anyway, so Savannah, do you have something? Because I know you have to leave soon.
Oh, yeah, I've got some time. Yeah, I mean, I wholeheartedly agree with Andrew. Pool house should be kept. There's a intention to tell stories about the history of the park. That seems like step one. A little more respectful, a way to capture it into this envisioned design. Same with the benches, if that makes sense too. I just had a few questions. Is the intention on the east side that it's just like overflow parking? Is that just existing parking lot to remain?
Right here?
Yeah.
Yes, it's the same parking lot. Yep.
Okay. And then, I mean, I like the idea of closing down the 3rd Avenue and sort of reclaiming it as part of the park, but still acknowledging it. But as someone who also attends these crazy kid tournaments, going to a parking lot and not having if there's no parking, having a dead end. So I was curious about the parking that dead ends and doesn't go all the way north anymore, like it does currently up to 20th Street. What is that about?
So currently, they were trying to have the space for the playground and the splash pad. So they're so down here is what you're talking about.
No, it's 20th Street.
Oh, so up here?
Yeah, that parking lot currently connects to the street, but now it dead ends. I was curious about that corner.
So it currently, I don't know, because on the north side, like you said, it currently dead ends. Because we are taking
currently it goes through, but
it
in
flows
your plan,
down. Yeah, it comes down this way.
No,
currently
there's 20th Street, which is the next street north.
It exits. There is a drive onto 20th, but there's like permanent bollards there. I don't know
Okay.
it's put in, but I'd imagine some neighborhood complaint at some point, probably. I don't
Mm,
Because currently at dead end, like you can't get off on 22nd or on
I thought you
20th.
could. It's like paved, but there's bollards.
Yeah, yes. Like there's a palm, like there's bollards, but then there's like a palm tree in the corner, like right here. But there's bollards, so it doesn't go all the way to the corner. But yeah, you can't get through on the 20th from this parking lot currently.
But it's been pulled down now. What is that space going to be now?
I believe it's just open space because currently there was one of the playgrounds was up in this area that we're removing and moving ahead and having a bigger playground down here. So it's standalone. So it's just to give it more turf or DG area. So currently it's just an open space.
Is the intention to have league tournaments for softball and baseball?
I don't know that. Because in my opinion, you can only really have a 2-field tournament because this is the bigger baseball field, and you can't do softball because it has a grass infield. And then on the bottom right-hand corner, this is a temporary fence that would get put up, so you would only have 2 baseball, softball fields. And I don't know if an individual would want to have a tournament with just 2 fields. So I know that we're looking at potentially having a baseball, softball organization come in here to have practices and games, but not really tournaments, because I don't know if we have enough parking to do tournaments. And then depending on if the pool house stays, I don't know how that's going to impact. We might only be able to get like 1 or 2 multi-purpose fields in as well. So I wouldn't suggest that this would become a tournament site because the infrastructure, in my opinion, isn't for that. It's more for the community, like the neighborhood usage and neighborhood leagues to have practices and games at.
Okay, I mean, I think that is more appropriate because of the dead end parking. All right, and then the last question I had is I saw on the first slide there was a dog park
Yes.
outside what was the softball field, which I love the idea of, like the balls getting out there and then them being claimed by the dogs. But is that no more?
It's part of phase 2. So this the dog park is part of phase 2, and then a part of phase 2 is expanding the skate park as well. So those 2 improvements just fell just short of when we did surveys for what they wanted to prioritize the community. So redoing the baseball, softball fields, making the turf area, putting the playground, the splash pad, those were the ones that rose up, and then having the walking path as well. So if funding comes available down the road, it would be a dog park and expanding the skate park as phase 2.
Okay.
So
that's it. Those are my questions. I'll let Joel go.
And then so currently, where the dog park is proposed, instead of just having a DG area, we are putting some plantings and trees in that area as well. So that could be something that gets incorporated into the dog park, where down the road that they would have some shade inside the dog park as well.
okay, thank you. Joel, did you have anything? You're on mute.
Yeah, no, not at this point. I don't. No, thank you though.
Okay. Thanks. And just Commissioners, Andrew put a photo of the end on the showing the bollards at the exit of that one area. Savannah, if you
yeah, I saw that. Thanks, Andrew. I was just mostly curious what was happening there and why the parking was reduced. But If
Okay.
there's no big events, then I think less parking is always ideal.
Yeah.
I'm sure the neighbors would
So-
appreciate it.
Yeah, so Desiree, what will happen? I know that Parks and Rec are anxious to move forward. What will happen when you get that HPIF completed?
Well, ideally, we would have, the timing would have been different, or the order, right? We would have had that first
Right.
at earlier stages of the park planning process, and you all would have been able to weigh in earlier. So I know it's hard because we don't have an evaluation, but I have heard comments today of interest in preserving that the the red clay tile roof portion of that building. And that was what the Tucson Historic Preservation Foundation was asking. They weren't necessarily asking for retention of the pool or the other portion. So I think, if that is something, a comment that this body has, then that can be recommended, right? Again, this isn't an HPZ, nor is it a federally funded project. So,
It's a city-owned property, though. It's a city-owned property.
right. So
Yeah, with
it can
potential historic resources, right?
Right. And so that's, it can be taken into consideration. It should be taken into consideration in
Yeah.
the design.
And then also you keep in mind the picnic tables and benches.
And then there was also the comment of there's an opportunity here to include the history and of the pool house,
Right.
perhaps in the oral histories and kind of the interpretive aspects of the design.
Yeah, I think we've got that. So anything else, commissioners?
Yeah, where can I see the pictures of that Andrew pulled up?
It's in the chat. If you go to the
Oh,
chat,
okay.
and there's just a picture of the little street, the end of that street with bollards.
Ah,
You see it? You see it?
yes. Thank you, Andrew, very much.
Yeah, thanks, Andrew. Okay, well,
Got it.
Jasmine or Matt, do you have any other questions for us?
Okay,
Uh,
got it.
You good?
Thank you.
Okay, well, thanks so much for your time and for coming through to us. And Desiree, you'll keep us posted?
Yes, I can share the inventory form with you all once that's ready.
Okay, and also we'd be curious about the recommendations you're formally going to make to them.
Okay.
That'd be great. Okay, thanks so much. Let me see here. Before we start with case 3D, I just wanted to ask Savannah, because I know she has to leave. Savannah, will you be here for the next meeting?
The second week of June?
That 22nd of May.
Oh, the 22nd. Yeah, that's fine.
Because I had emailed you and Andrew about that, right? Or maybe just Andrew, but
I didn't
yeah.
get that email. But yes, actually I did later when you then forwarded it to me, and
Oh, yeah. So
I'll be there.
Yeah. So hopefully if Joel can be there, then we're okay.
The 22nd of May.
Please say yes.
I am going to be at the meeting.
Okay, perfect. Okay, and I'll explain
Good
what later
intrigue.
why I can't be on. So
Yeah.
okay, and
So, Historical Commission.
PRS on May 22nd. Okay,
Commission.
thank you very much. And let's move on to case 3D, Fort Lowell Historic Preservation Zone Design Guidelines. We're going to continue review for a third time. And Andrew had brought up and I had requested, and then Michael requested of you kind folks at Fort Lowell to sort of show us how you've made changes. So I'm going to make a suggestion, and PRS members, you can comment. If we pick up where we left off, see how far we get, hopefully finish, and see how far we get. I really can't go much beyond 3:30. So, but we'll see how we do. And then so are you going to present, Elaine, or is Mary Lou, or who's presenting?
I'll continue to present. So let me clarify. So are you asking to continue from where we stopped last time and not go back?
Yeah, and then I have an idea about what you kindly provided us, but I think we should move forward and see how far we are and then come up with a plan. Because we can review that on our own and see because you've been very good about telling us how you were going to make changes. We haven't really seen, that could be part of where we get today.
Okay.
So is all I'm saying. And I'm sorry that we put you last, but it wouldn't have been, because we were asked to include the Santa Rita Park case on the agenda. So we did. And
That's
I'm
fine.
sorry to
No,
keep putting
no
you there.
problem. No problem. It's taken us a long time to get here too, so no problem.
And we want to give you our best thoughts, instead of being,
Yeah. And I think where we stopped was in design criteria, section 7.
It should, if you bring it up, the file, you'll be able to. Can someone make Elaine a co-presenter, please?
Yes, I'll do that now.
Thank you, thank you.
Okay, you should be able to share now. Let me know if you have trouble.
Yeah. Michael, did you get Savannah is leaving? Because I don't see her on.
I got her, Madam Chair.
Okay, perfect, thank you. So she left, what, at about a couple minutes ago?
Yeah, 2:58.
Okay. Okay.
Hey, can you see my screen now?
Yes.
Okay.
Now, Elaine, is this the version that contains your strike-throughs and additions, or is that a different version you made?
No, this is the version that you have.
Perfect, okay, perfect.
So you see, these are the strike-throughs.
Yeah, and the additions, right?
Yep.
Okay.
And I think this is where we stopped
Yes.
with excuse me, design criteria. These are the illustrations.
Yeah, and I recall that Andrew had a comment about the images. Was that, do you remember that, Andrew?
I think maybe it was Savannah, but
Oh, okay.
I think we had talked about maybe if there was imagery for like I forget what we called it, the Sonoran vernacular, or there was some style that's referenced in the text. If there was like a
description or the images themselves.
I think there was a description like maybe above this section of like Sonoran vernacular.
There it is. Bungalow vernacular.
Yeah, something. I think maybe it was Savannah who flagged that it might be good to have something like that.
As one of the pictures.
Yeah, illustrated. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
But no, otherwise I think the illustrations are good.
Okay. So we would need to get probably an architect to do those descriptions.
And a quick little sketch, maybe, or a sketch of it.
Well, the sketches, these are here, the
Oh,
illustration.
is there one in bungalow vernacular?
Yes, that one.
Oh, perfect. Okay, all right.
And then we're planning to have these 2 other styles.
Okay, that was it. Yeah, I think my memory's jogged. I think what we had discussed was maybe just more like breaking out the individual styles and giving like a kind of a description of each of them, like character defining features of those styles. So that they're more defined, I guess.
Because that would be helpful for people doing things, or for even this committee, the subcommittee doing reviews. I mean, and for people to think about the character defining features of their building.
Yeah, okay. I think so.
I think that's really helpful, because oftentimes people don't think about that, when they think about changing windows or placements or orientations.
Right, okay. We'll have to find someone to do that in the proper way, I think. So for this other section, as far as moving on from that, site utilization setbacks. Should we just go through these, or?
Yeah, we want to look at those.
Comments?
So is this a new comment, a new addition that you put in that, yeah, that we hadn't looked at?
This is, these, if you can see that that's blue text.
Yeah. Mhm.
Blue text is what's been put in since the last version of the guidelines, which was 20 years ago.
Right. So you've got your edit function on, right? So in that first line of this section, could you put a comma after semi-rural?
Actually, this is a PDF
Oh, okay, then just,
because it's
yeah.
just easier to display. But I will, yeah.
Yeah. Okay, so front setbacks.
I think my comment here would be in the blue text, since we're talking about like site utilization or site planning, where it says the informal, semi-rural, low density quality of design. I think quality of design should maybe be uh like site design or site layout. I don't know. Site planning maybe. Because we're talking about like the siting of,
It's really, yeah, it's the layout, isn't it? The layout of sites or
yeah.
site use is informal, well, yeah. Does that make sense, Elise?
Mary Lou is my note taker, so I'm counting on her to capture the specifics.
Okay.
Right, Mary Lou?
Okay, any comments on,
Yes.
other comments on 7.3? Okay. And let's look at 7.4. Okay.
Comments here?
No, I think I'm good with this section.
Yeah, I'm fine with it too. Joel, are you okay with it? Joel?
Just give me a half second here.
It's 7.4, section 7.4.
7.4, that's what I'm going through. The additions in the blue part, right?
Mhm.
Yep. And I can do both on regular course. Okay, yeah, I'm okay. Yep.
Okay, thank you.
Huh?
7.5.
7.5 is rhythm, and the addition had to do with irregular heights of walls and softened rounded edges of walls.
Oh, just a second, Moses.
Okay.
Yeah, that's good.
Okay, 7.6.
I'm okay, yeah.
You might add at the very end of that, where it says architectural asphalt shingles that replaced original cedar shingles are common on historic gable roofs. You may say that as like gable and hip roofs or something. It's
I
really
don't think we
just
have
roofs.
any hip roofs, but I will.
Yeah. Or really, it's just really any roof that's steep enough, I guess.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm okay with that second paragraph too, because so many people are wanting to put solar panels in, right? There's got to be some guidance on it.
Newly installed equipment on, let me just read real quick, sorry. I'm gonna put it on move for a second.
Okay, anything, Joel?
No,
Are you good?
I have no issue with anything in 7.6.
Right.
Okay. Okay, and just, I want to just comment on that note. It's a good idea that you mentioned that because you say that that's higher, but, you know, you talk about it because you don't want people edging up to the height of that building, correct?
That's right. In
Okay,
other words,
good.
it's distinctive and it's not characteristic of all the other structures in the zone.
Yeah, and it's an outlier in the sense that it's an institutional structure, right? It's not residential, so it's good to call that out. So thank you.
Well, it is now residential, but it wasn't.
Yeah, it wasn't originally. Yeah. Okay. Texture and color.
Texture and color, this edition has a lot more detail about, well, first of all, it talks about adobe, stabilized adobe, conventional cement plaster versus lime plaster. In the first paragraph, it talks about when repairing that masonry to use consistent or to be consistent with whatever the masonry is.
Yeah, I like the fact that you talk about the stucco and don't use, you know, very much cement plaster because that will ruin everything. Nice.
A lot of detail.
Yeah, good.
Madam Chair,
Yes.
can we just clarify one thing? Helen, can you go back to the solar panel?
I'm sorry, say that again.
The
Go
solar
back to
panel,
the
go back to the
section
solar
on the
panel.
solar panel.
It's just,
Because I see a statement here that they should not be installed on the street facing facade. So if what we see during the review, if a solar panel is installed on the street facing facade and it is mounted to the flush mounted, is that allowable? Because it says that the unit should not be mounted on the street facing roof elevation. But if they are flush mounted, they're like 3 inches away from the roof, or 4 inches or 6 inches, that is kind of flush mounted. Can they do that? Because the code does not really discourage that. The code only talks about there should be minimal visibility from the street. So should we do that as this kind of restriction? That's all I'm asking.
You're talking about on a sloped roof?
I'm talking about this statement here. They say the type of unit should not be mounted on the street facing roof elevation. So if you look at solar panels that we have done in Fodlow, so if they're even on the street facing elevation, but they are kind of flush mounted, they're very low down there, the lowest they can go. My question is that allowed?
Well, I think what it says, it should be installed so that it minimizes visibility, right? So if those panels minimize visibility and aren't visible, Is that what you're asking? I guess I'm not clear what you're asking.
Okay, so
asking-
Elaine, let me finish, Michael. Rooftop panels and other types of units should not be mounted on street-facing roof elevations. But Michael is saying that often on these street-facing elevations, he's wanting to know if that's allowable because many of these panels are mounted flush. So, I mean, you could see them, but not giant tilted ones. Do you know what I'm saying? So, and he says that the code, do you want to be more restrictive to the code, and is that even possible? Could people argue that? You know what I'm saying? So
Exactly.
Michael is, yeah.
I think that's why it's reviewed, right? So that's the purpose of the review, is to see whether it's acceptable.
Maybe you could soften the language and say something, it's recommended that that panels and other, mechanical equipment shouldn't be mounted on street-facing roof elevations, and is subject to review or something like that per the code. Because often, I always thought that the panels raise up slightly anyway at certain points.
They do. Oh, they do.
And so the ones that I've looked at with you on minor reviews in other neighborhoods, maybe even one in Fort Lowell, they're usually back, so that you can't see them really.
Yeah.
But that wording might need some extra help, because I think Michael's point about your guidelines being more restrictive than code. Is that it, Michael?
That's it, Madam Chair. And when you say it should not, that's actually powerful. So somebody comes with it, then it's not allowed.
Yeah, it basically should say something like
Avoid,
avoid, or it's recommended to avoid. It's recommended to avoid, because that's not, you must avoid.
Yeah.
Yep.
And we've been through reviews too, where we find that they can move things back and it's not visible.
Yeah.
Right, it depends on where you stand, and I've seen those too, where you're like, oh, it's going to be bad, and then you go, no, it's not really.
Yeah.
When you look. Yeah.
Okay.
So thank you. Good catch, Michael. Good discussion.
Thank you, Madam Chair.
Okay, let's go back to.
Okay, we're back to texture and color.
Well, wait a minute. This Joel, Michael, is that satisfactory language?
That'll be fine. That'll be fine.
Okay. I mean, I've been on a lot of
Yeah.
these panel reviews with you, and I just want to make sure you're comfortable, because I know this is a big issue for people, and I just want to help you out here if you know what I mean. Okay.
Yeah,
No, I
think they're willing to modify the wording so it's not so direct. Yeah.
So long as that's modified, it will be okay.
Good deal. Okay, thank you. Thanks for the clarification. Appreciate it.
Okay, so back to texture and color. The first part just talks about Adobe and stucco. The next piece talks about repairs of
masonry, including Adobe.
Yeah, the next piece just addresses replacing old bricks with old bricks, or Adobe bricks with Adobe bricks.
On the first part of this section, I think there's a lot of confusion, especially by people that aren't like used to the historic plasters, but like your average like subcontractor is just calling everything stucco. But I think to me, stucco is like a Portland cement based like hard material, and then plaster are the softer like lime and mud. And I think there's some mixing of the wording in here where we're saying like, if you scroll up a bit, like that second sentence, use stucco, lime, or mud plaster with smooth or sand finish on Adobe buildings. I would just say like use lime or mud plaster and get I think we want that distinction between stucco, which is a Portland cement product, and a lime or a mud plaster, which has no Portland or very, very little Portland. That distinction needs to be super clear.
Yeah.
And you might want to say something in the beginning, adobe buildings with lime or mud plaster are most characteristic because it promotes, it allows the adobe to breathe and allows it to be preserved. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
And something like that. Andrew, do you want to do further review of this paragraph and can we do that and then send it to
Yeah,
Michael to get to Elaine?
I could
Because,
do
and I
that.
wouldn't mind looking at it either, because I worked for years on adobe buildings. So, and it's really communicating that to people is super important for the long-term life of that building. But
Yeah.
thanks, I appreciate you really trying to go into more depth here.
Yeah, it's great. And I'll add my notes and send that to my.
Yeah, that'd be really helpful.
Yeah.
And yeah, and you're right. Andrew's right that contractors don't always understand that distinction.
And the bags often say lime, they say contains lime, so.
Yeah. Okay. I'm happy with that if that's done. Let's see, integrated. Excuse me, I'm good with that, the color discussion there. I think that just review that whole section, Andrew.
Yeah, will do.
Yeah, it will help because this was part of the project that we faced with one project that Andrew was helping us to work on in Fort Law. It was the contractor not doing what his stock was lime plaster.
So one thing I am a little unclear on is, what's the recommendation if it already has cement stucco on it?
So the National Park Service brief recommends not removing it because it can cause more damage to the adobe. But obviously that's not what we did. But anyway, but they recommend not removing it. But I think it's kind of a case by case. If the adobe is in really, really bad shape, it may be best to just repair it. But if it can come off without causing too much damage to the adobe, then that's a better long-term solution.
Okay, thanks.
Just real quick, Elaine, our company years ago inspected and fixed all of the officers' quarters on the parade ground at Fort Huachuca. I don't know if you've ever been there, but they were built. They're some of the most unusual multi-story adobe buildings because they were trying to build it like a Midwest or Eastern fort, right? And so we were working on the Inspector General's building, and there was literally, and they had all been recovered in cement plaster back in the WPA days, and we took the plaster off of the Inspector General's building wall right by where the person sat, and it was down to a fin of adobe, the thinnest thing you can imagine, and it was full of like animal skeletons because they'd lived in the walls and burrowed away all the adobe. So if we hadn't taken that off, it would have collapsed at some point because there was just nothing holding it up. So it's and I don't think many of the buildings in Fort Lowell are quite that old, but I think that they could be. But I think that encouraging, and maybe saying something, Andrew, about a qualified adobe contractor.
Yeah,
I don't know,
absolutely.
or experienced or something, without being like, oh, you can't say that. But yeah.
Yeah, I think something about like a recommendation to consult with, Adobe or Adobe specialist or something in there would be good.
For your own protection, and they can give you options on what you can do and evaluate the extent of damage that has been caused by the plaster, right?
Yeah, and I think the like vernacular way that a lot of these buildings developed, we found this out on the teacher's house, the teacher's cottage. Like, it's not even all adobe under there, so you really do need someone to come in and create like a plan best practice. It's going to be hard to like make a prescriptive, like if this then this within the
Right.
context of the
Within
design
guidelines.
because everything is so different, and it's like just built by whomever with whatever materials they had at the time. So yeah.
I have crates in my kitchen. I have walls that are built out of fruit crates, so.
Oh, really?
Okay, let's go ahead and look at
Okay.
projections then.
Projections.
They're built
symbol,
out of what? I'm sorry, I missed that. They're built out of what?
Crate,
fruit crates.
fruit crates.
Wow.
Long time ago. Projections mostly referring to canales, shades, porches. That didn't change. Architectural detail, this actually we must have gone through this because now I'm remembering we talked about this about openings not being filled in. If possible. Doors, glass doors, our previous guidelines talked about French doors, but not, so we just said glass doors, we expanded a little. Because now people have single light glass doors.
But they can be used on the rear in not visible spots, right?
Right. And then windows, we're actually doing something now, we're trying to help someone, a non-historic structure replace windows, so this is something also to consider. Is that this says that vinyl clad aluminum or synthetic windows are not acceptable. But in fact, everyone wants vinyl clad aluminum or synthetic windows now.
Well, and they're allowed in some historic districts too. Especially we discourage them on front elevations. So you've had discussions about that.
Well, it's come up since we put this forward, so I think we have to, if you have any comments about it, or any recommendations, that would be good.
What do you think, Andrew and Joel?
I would just change the wording a bit. I would say vinyl, comma, aluminum clad, comma, or synthetic windows are not allowed, because I think, or do you allow aluminum clad wood windows?
In new construction, they've been allowed.
Okay. I would probably add that in there, the aluminum clad wood windows. And I think that's a part people get confused on too, because a lot of, not just your guidelines, but a lot of the other ones say like no aluminum windows, and that the aluminum clad wood windows are a gray area sometimes. But I think generally they're a high quality product that most zones allow.
And they're improving them now. Yeah, they're improving them now. But that's again, if you want to suggest some wording for that
yeah, I can.
That we could look at, because it is really tricky, because I always insist when we talk about that in other reviews and other HPZs that we, we explain what it is, that it's basically clad wood, right? They're wood windows in the interior, and then they're clad with something. But
Yeah.
the way that you hyphenate it, or you structure that, the wording makes it interpretable in various ways. Does that make sense?
Yeah, I'll add some notes here, because there's kind of some industry standard like terms that I think if we're aligned with will help people. And I think I remember West University rewrote this part of theirs, and they did a pretty good job with it. So I'll have to go back and look at what they did.
Yeah, and we had looked, before you were on the commission or PRS, Andrew, West University was one of the first to propose alternatives to wood, and even brought them into the meeting room, and we all inspected them and looked at the specs, and it was really useful. And then looking at what was happening in preservation throughout the country, to sort of move along, and then there weren't enough manufacturers really to do it right now. I think it's better, I hope.
Yeah.
Okay. Okay, move on.
The profiles of the windows should stay the same. I think we're not gonna provide illustrations about what windows are, you know, that there's probably enough examples now in the world with, you know, basically newly constructed historical replica windows. Awnings and
Well,
shades.
yeah, unless Andrew can provide some thoughts. I understand what you're saying, but aren't windows like a big topic of discussion in your area?
They become a topic of discussion after they've been replaced.
Yeah. I don't know, Andrew, what do you think?
Yes, and in my area, a huge topic after they've been replaced too in West University. Yeah, huge topic. But I think we've taken care of that with the language we spoke about before. So,
Are those guidelines already published now? West University?
I'm sorry, I don't know the answer to that. I'll find out.
Michael, do you know? Desiree, do you know? No one's responding.
Hello? Hello?
Michael's on mute.
Terry, sorry. The West, you talking of West University design guidelines?
Yes.
They are not yet published, no. They're still reformatting them to publish them. Which section of those guidelines are you trying to get to?
Windows.
Windows.
Okay. I can provide that to you, Ellen.
Thank you.
And copy Andrew and me, please. Or
Yes,
all of us.
I'll do.
Or blind copy. Okay.
Great.
Thank you.
Yeah, my only edit here would be in the sentence where it says number of panes parentheses lights. I believe typically lights is LITES in reference to Windows.
Okay.
Yeah. Is that up above?
Yeah,
Oh, I see right there. Yeah, I see that at the top. And then we've got arches and lintels.
Yeah, that hasn't changed.
And then gates and security. That's a good one because I've heard you talk about the you know, the window grates and security doors without modern or elaborate decorative design. So good clarification.
Okay.
Okay, any other comments on that section?
No, not really. Where it says exposed wooden lintels or over openings are common, you may add like wood or masonry lintels because a lot of those old adobes have like concrete lintels and stuff too.
Okay. Okay, landscaping. What this is missing right now is anything hardscape that's related to landscape. So things like structures that are put into landscape.
Oh, sort of like garden structures and stuff. So are you going to be adding that or?
Well, yeah, we could add something about hardscape, about landscape, about little walls, seat walls. We're having a big controversy right now about boulders.
Would it be helpful for you to talk to the Historic Landscape Subcommittee about some of that, like the applicability of things like the boulders and all that stuff to get some ideas or? And that's not covered in the Spicer book?
No.
Yeah, I think you
It's
really need
just
that.
landscape. It's just like a landscape palette, basically.
So if, let's say that a garden is put on a non-visible portion of the home, or are you saying because of the placement of a lot of these homes that you would see these things that you wouldn't normally see, let's say if they were behind a house in West University, for example? So what are the kind of things you're disagreeing about?
Large boulders, there have been large boulders placed in front of a historic property. And there have been large giant boulders placed in the park.
Yeah, well, I mean, we could recommend Andrew and Joel that they just have HLS look at the landscaping portions for ideas, because you might really get some good ones, you know, people familiar with a lot of different historic context for these kinds of things.
Yeah,
You know,
I think that'd be good.
and I mean, they could do it relatively quickly. And what do you think, Michael and Desiree?
Yeah, that would be a good idea, Madam Chair.
Yeah, I'm hip to
Because-
that too.
Yeah, and we have a couple landscape architects on there, and
Yeah.
you know, who could say, oh, you know, that's not allowed, or that's not, you know, does it affect the historic character if you put giant boulders in the front yard? You know, I don't know. Could, but they're exceedingly popular everywhere for some unknown reason.
Yeah, I think HLS can provide you guys some good feedback on this.
Okay.
The only thing I would maybe consider adding to this section would, unless it's addressed elsewhere, you might want to talk about not placing like planting or irrigation like close to adobe walls to prevent like water damage. And you might talk about like grading and stormwater runoff as part of that too.
Absolutely.
Okay, we'll do that.
Okay, Elaine, let's see, how long is your enclosure section here? Because we've got to, unfortunately,
This is just mostly about walls, about perimeter
oh,
walls.
that's super important.
So the difference between what it says now and what it used to say is that it adds some other types of walls and fences that are acceptable. But it also, the code itself says that chain link fence is not acceptable. And that's in a technical standard, I think. But in fact, in Fort Lowell, there are lots of, there are wire fences and there are 4-foot chain link that's been here for 50 years or more.
So how does that work if the code says it's not? I mean, does that have to be changed at some point?
Well, the way we left it, no, the way we left it was that it's here, right? It's often seen in this district. If someone wanted to put in more chain link fence, that would be subject to review, but that's a question. So if they're here, they wouldn't necessarily be removed.
So Michael, what is your thought on that?
Madam Chair, if they are already there, they are already existing, they should probably be considered non-conforming, they're already there. Not tell them to remove. But if somebody is coming to put in a new chain link fence, then it is subject to review. I believe that's what Ellen was saying.
But so is that wording okay as is?
Behind a brand cannot obstruct the public view of interior structures from the street. Solid wall of fences in the front of brushing. Now we turn and forfeit as many as possible. The street can be a step up to 6 feet tall. The side and rear of the private privacy wall and fence.
I think what we might do is say that it doesn't set a precedence for new chain link fence, which is what we did with some roof tile
Right, and then it still conforms with the code, right? Would that be correct?
Yeah, I think that should be fine.
Okay.
Okay. Any other comments about walls? We've had many meetings about walls.
I have a concern here. So when they say that the Fort Law Historical Advisory Board requests a full review for new walls and fences on contributing property, wall and fences in the code are reviewed as minor reviews. So when you say that they should be reviewed as a full review here, I think this goes contrary to what the code provisions are.
In other words, we would request it. And that's primarily because there are some contributing historic properties where they have requested 6-foot walls and in the front yard, in the front, on the streetscape.
No, 6 foot on the streetscape is not allowed. You can
Sorry?
request it, but this saying that it will request a full review. I think that is still in my head. Maybe I'm not getting it right.
No, I think
I agree with you.
Yeah, so Michael, what would happen is that if somebody gave weak or incomplete detail on a full review on the plans, for example, and then we would say, come back for a minor review, or, it's disingenuous of someone to come back with a full plan and then say, oh, by the way, we'll bring back our walls to minor review. I mean, because either representative, whether it's the PRS or the HPZ representative, can send it back to a full review, correct?
That's correct.
Yeah, and so, maybe you could say something in the note, Elaine, like, we'll request a full review of new walls and fences on contributing properties.
Can I offer a?
Go ahead.
Okay.
Go ahead.
This would be my suggested wording. I would say that, in Fort Lowell Historic Zone Advisory Board or zone, that new walls and fences require minor review. Courtesy review is encouraged and will be requested by the board or something like that. So I think you could do it as like a courtesy review if you want the whole board to look at it. But I do think Michael's right. The process in the code for this is minor review, and I don't think we can overstep that here.
Mm-hmm.
So let me clarify. So what you're saying is that the board would request a courtesy review of all new walls and fences on contributing historic properties.
Yeah, and that would at least give you the chance, if you wanted to have the whole board review it like it was a full review, then you can do that through a courtesy review.
Yes.
Yeah, it just can't be required.
Yeah, and then then they wouldn't go to minor review with inappropriate plans, hopefully. Right, and you also had that earlier section, Elaine, where you talked about no voids or anything like that, because I remember us doing a review where that was discussed. Mm-hmm. And do you want to reference also see section whatever for enclosures to make sure, because it's not redundant information, but it's additional information. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah. Mm-hmm. And then again, that was a West University change too, where they described voids, right?
Yes.
And so if I can see that section, that would help too.
Okay.
So you want the section on windows and walls?
Windows and walls, yeah.
Okay, I'll provide.
Thank you.
Okay. Well,
Okay.
how many more sections? I think that
Um,
we're,
We're close here. Yeah, we're close. So
well,
parking,
yeah, but
sidewalks and mailboxes. Mailboxes aren't really regulated, but, and neither are sidewalks, but.
we'll have to do, I think we're gonna have to stop for the day because we've got, if my suggestion is that you make the changes, that Andrew's gonna give some suggestions, and then, hopefully the next meeting, we'll have not more than 2 other cases. We've got to do this, or we have to do a separate meeting to finish this for you guys. But I think now there's some rewriting that has to be done, right, with those couple sections. And what do you think? What is the next agenda? Just, I know you're gonna go into it later, but just so Elaine doesn't have to stress out over it, like, what can we only have 2 other cases next time?
I actually have the Fort Law design guideline as a continual case for the next agenda. And there will be a 4-item agenda, Madam Chair.
We might have to do a separate meeting for this to finish. Because this is too much. The courtesy reviews, well, I don't want to get into that right now, but and also I think what we should all do is review what Elaine prepared so that we're fine with everything that's been changed, up to this point on the agenda, right? Because we had asked for that. So that we're not taking up loads and loads of time. And maybe what we do is put Fort Lowell on at the beginning.
Okay.
Yeah.
Just to be fair, so that you don't have to sit through all these other cases.
We can do that, Madam Chair.
Yeah, let's talk about it a little bit more. And I'd even be okay with a catch-up meeting at some point. Because these 3-hour meetings just are not good. So does that make sense, Elaine?
Yeah, I think by the time I get the stuff from Andrew, you can incorporate that. And then talk to HLS and incorporate that. This will be, that'll be it. Then it'll be just the review of the changes, the track changes, basically.
Yeah, and I'm thinking that it might not even be, but you have to contact Steve Grady. I can send you his, or you can email me and I can send you his address to get on their next agenda, because they have that early meeting. You have to find out when they're meeting again, or they might be totally willing to have, a sooner meeting for you just to go over this.
Okay, that'll be fine.
Because it's so important. And then we can kind of work on when, if it's the next meeting we finish or the following one. Right, because depending on how quickly you can get on HLS.
Right, okay.
So, Ellen, do you think that you'll be ready by the 5/22 meeting?
I can be if I can get with HLS.
But
anyway, I'll just contact you during the time to see where we are, so we know whether to schedule you for that or to just do a special meeting for the design guidelines.
Right, so that we're not, that might be useful.
And if we need the time, the June 12th meeting, we could put this on there if you need, to skip a PRS.
In the past, we've often done special meetings, and it's sometimes less stressful because you're just focusing on something that needs to be finished.
And something like this is, would be a good candidate for that for sure.
Absolutely, absolutely. So let's consider that, and Michael, you and I and Desiree can talk about potential dates for a special meeting even, and maybe Desiree, maybe you could email Steve. Didn't you do that before? Didn't we push him to
Yeah,
to
I have
meet on
another
certain-
item to ask him about, so I'm happy to do that.
Yeah, and then just copy us and just say we really we suggested that the Fort Lowell folks have worked so hard on their guidelines and they really need some good thoughts on some of their landscaping stuff.
Okay.
or whatever you want to say, so that you can get them to, he'll have to see if people can meet and suggest when that might be. Does that make sense?
Mm-hmm.
And
Because
in
we
the
want to be
meantime,
accommodating.
I'll try to stage that too for them, so that they understand what these questions are.
Yeah, and they're very helpful too. So, especially if they have something from Desiree and from you, it's not a huge thing. They can focus on your stuff.
Okay, that'd be great. Thank you.
Okay. All right. Well, we better, let's coordinate, Michael and Desiree, on what this looks like sort of a sequencing of what has to happen. And Andrew, I don't know how long it will take you to get your sections back for consideration.
Yeah, I'm gonna try and get it done this weekend.
Okay. Thank you. Thank you.
So, Andrew, would it be helpful? I mean, do you want to send it to me directly?
Yeah, I can do that, and I'll copy Michael too, just to keep him.
Yeah. And copy me too.
Michael,
So I
and that
know.
way, yeah, that way there's you have my email. I don't know that you have my email otherwise.
I want to say I have it, but maybe not.
If not, I will provide.
Yeah, and be sure to copy me too. And if you need it, I have Elaine's email.
Okay,
Okay.
will do.
And
No,
copy Mary
I
Lou,
think you're
she's
fine.
the chair. Copy Mary Lou is the chair of the board.
Yeah.
Okay.
Andrew, what section are you working on again?
I'm sorry?
7.7 and 7.9, which is texture and color and windows.
Thank you.
And yeah, Windows. Good, thank you. Okay, well, thank you all. I appreciate the time from you.
Oh, sure. And thanks for all your hard work. And so, all right, I have to find out where I am now. Take care.
Thanks. Bye.
Thank you. Bye. Okay, so we're going to move on to item 4, Task Force on Inclusivity Report Recommendations. 4A is discussion on best practices for naming of city and county owned physical assets. No report on that today, and that probably will take a special meeting at some point in our century. Okay, item 5, current issues for information discussion. 5A, minor reviews. Could I mention something before you begin, Michael?
Yes,
On minor reviews. Okay, Desiree, you had emailed me about the potential minor review at the Fox Theater, right? For
Yes,
some railings
handrails on the
on an
interior.
Yes, and the reason we would do interior is because it's a national level listing, correct?
Right, and in that particular nomination, some interior features are called out.
Yeah,
it's
and I think
individually
generally, yeah,
listed.
because it's significant for its interior features in many cases, like the
right.
Yeah. So my question is, Andrew, are you up with, what I don't want, I want to say this now, I don't want them sneaking in with cumulative little reviews. If this is truly just a minor thing, I would be fine with a minor review.
Okay.
But they have a lot of stuff that could be very problematic.
Oh yeah.
And we haven't heard from them for more than a year on a courtesy review. So, I mean, how do the rest of you feel? Do you feel like, Andrew, could you do that minor review? Because didn't you go to his thing?
I can do the minor review, and I would say my perception of maybe the way that they're doing it is just because they don't have the funds to do everything. So I don't know that they're going to be at a spot where they can put a full package of this is everything we're going to do. I think they're just kind of doing stuff as they have the funds, and that's how it's going to come. So.
But we have to be careful because I was there for the courtesy review, and I've seen a lot of other things, and some of the proposals are disturbing. So I think we have to be just aware that it could be a potential piecemealing thing.
Yeah,
but
absolutely.
This seems fine, right?
And I think in the minor review, if that is the sense that it needs to go to a full review, then we'll just do that. But
yeah, my sense for this is it's strictly, and we can definitely communicate that if the conversation changes, right? But the plans that I've seen and what has been asked is specifically the handrails on the interior. So I think that's fine, but yeah, if it, like I
Yeah,
said, the
just so we could
conversation
be aware.
changes. Mhm.
So, okay,
Yeah,
Michael, do you want to
so
quickly
yeah, but
summarize under 5A?
yes, Madam Chair, but let me also say one thing about the minor review. So because it is in downtown, if Andrew gets there and discovers that it is much more than what they have said and what they are doing, he has the power to say, let's take this to a full review.
Right, and then one of you would be there, right?
Yeah,
Or Desiree, or something, but you're all three of you.
yeah, I will be there. Desiree will be there. So
Yeah, you guys can take it away. Okay, what else do you have for us on minor reviews?
yeah, for minor reviews, Madam Chair, we have had 419 South Fifth Avenue for a roof and EV charger in Amory Park. We have 136 West Simpson Street for an EV charger and some solar panel in the barrio. And then we also have 460 South Fifth Avenue for the chain link fence that was being removed and replaced with the masonry wall and wrought iron fence. Those are the ones that I have done. And for this one, I got the assistance from Andrew. Then for pending reviews, I have 2 reviews in West University that Joey and the chair of West University are wanting us to schedule a site review for those, and I will do that for 29 East 2nd Street for a solar panel, and there is one on 848 North 10th Avenue for a roof. That will require an on-site site review to be scheduled in West University. I have one pending 5621 East Fort Law Road for a solar panel in Fort Law. And I think those are the ones that I have out there waiting now. So I'm counting on the Commissioner Ireland to help us with those in West University. And I will also tap on Andrew for any ones that are not in West University.
Yeah, and Michael, on 29 East 2nd Street, I want to be involved in that, and just set it up anytime, and I'll be there when you need me. Fine.
Thank you.
Okay, you bet.
Okay. I just had one comment, and Desiree, you had also asked me in an email, how did we select people to do minor reviews? You can kind of see the process here where people are either from that neighborhood or have helped before or have knowledge of that. And the reason I brought up the one at the Fox Theater was that there was an open house I was invited to on their upcoming plans, and I don't think you had started work yet, but I couldn't make it, but I asked Andrew to go, and you went, right, Andrew?
Yeah, I went and Helen went too. She's
Yeah,
not.
and Helen went. So we, we had some coverage on that, but I've been involved. I wouldn't mind talking to you at some point about issues with the Fox Theater or what, all that sort of years of angst over it. But that's how we choose them. I mean, we get the most practiced person either in that neighborhood or with, and I tend not to do that many simply because I do other
You're on
stuff.
5 committees. Right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so, and Ricky Riojas was fabulous. I mean, one time Michael had a deficit of like 30 and she helped him with those.
Yep.
So, it's, we're good. I think we have a good plan. And I think, don't you, Joel and Andrew, feel comfortable with the ones you do because you're familiar with those areas?
Oh, utterly. Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely.
And how about you, Andrew? You're good?
Yeah, I'm good, and especially on Fox. I mean, I've worked on historic theaters and stuff too. So
Yeah. So you're good. You're good. So anyway, I really appreciate it. And okay, so on 5B, do we have any appeals?
No, Madam Chair.
Okay. 5C, zoning violations, the usual report.
Usual.
Do we have any zoning violations coming to us soon?
No.
Okay, 5D is review process. We're running really late on time, but Desiree, I'm not neglecting you on the question you had about that one case where it talked about landscape. You remember that email you just sent to me today?
Let's see. There's a lot of emails I sent. I have to look it up.
No, you know what? Let's do this. Let's just stay on for a second after we get off. But I have a suggestion on that will be helpful.
Okay.
Does anyone want to bring up any review process issues?
No, not at the moment.
Yeah, I just wanted to say that I think some of these projects that they come through and they're kind of painful. I mean, it's like you sort of alluded to, Michael or Desiree, that, you know, the city was without anyone to help out at a certain time, and there was no one to really coach the applicant in what a courtesy review was or how they differed from other things. So I think you guys are working hard to bring things up to speed, to be responsive to the needs of applicants. So I think, we're not always going to see those, right? So thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you. Can I ask, sorry, I know we have to go, and I actually have a meeting at 4, but just one note, and I can follow up with email, but what I would like to do is kind of set up regular times for each of the HPZs, like for site visits. So since I know one of you at least needs to be at those site visits as well, I'm hoping to find a time. For example, let's take West University. Every Wednesday morning, we kind of have that set block of time. Just to help us schedule, because so much of our time and energy goes into coordinating schedules. And with 5 different HPZs and 2 or 3 schedules per site visit, it just takes up so much time. So I'm trying to think of ways to streamline the scheduling.
Oh, the minor reviews, you mean?
For minor reviews, yes, mostly for minor reviews, but PRS member does need to go to a minor review as well,
Oh, yeah.
right? Yeah. But I can follow up with email, but just wanted to bring that to your attention.
Yeah, that's a good thing to think about if you could get somebody to do that and then you could schedule them. But I think PRS members have been extremely responsive to help with these reviews. So
okay,
I appreciate that. But let's think about that. And Andrew, you and Joel, who do a ton of those, think about how would you respond to a set time or, whatever. So you don't have to answer now.
Yeah.
Sure.
Okay.
Yeah, okay. So item 6 is summary of public comments. Were there any made by the deadline?
No, Madam Chair.
Okay, item 7, future agenda items. I had reached out to Andrew and Savannah because on the next meeting, I have an all-day tribal meeting that I just found that a client wants me to go to. I mean, not just today, but a few days ago. And I can't miss it. And it's all the way somewhere in a remote corner of the Tohono O'odham Nation. So there's no way I'm going to get out of there by 1 o'clock. So Andrew and Savannah both said that they would be at the meeting on the 22nd, and so did Joel. So either Andrew or Savannah can chair, and we'd still have a quorum. So, but anyway, so what are our agenda items for the next meeting if we don't have Fort Lowell on that day?
Then we'll have 360 East 8th Street for an outdoor patio. It's an IID project. We have 407 East 2nd Street for an ADU, and we also have 628 East 5th Street for a new ADU. All these are from West University.
Okay, and what was the third one? I'm sorry, I didn't get a chance to write it down.
628 East 5th Street.
Okay, and I would ask, we haven't reviewed all that many new ADUs, have we? Since the law was passed? Okay, so I really suggest, can we keep it to 3, please? Say yes if we do Fort Lowell another time.
That's my thought process. Yeah, we can do that and just take out Fort Lowell, so they will be limited to 3, Madam Chair.
Yeah, and then I think we can continue to discuss on Fort Lowell, see how quickly we make things. So, okay, anything else? Future agenda item?
No, just those for now.
Okay, well, thanks, everyone. We'll go ahead and adjourn at 4:02.
Wow.
And I know it's bad.
Terry, thank you so much. Good meeting you. I thought you ran a good meeting today. It was a difficult meeting and you got us through it. Appreciate it.
Oh, thanks. Everyone else helped too. It wasn't just me. So
Well, you
thanks,
did a good
everyone.
job.